Okay, in today's video, I'm going to talk about how public relations campaigns and PPC campaigns actually meet together. And what I mean by that is, what traditionally was done in the public relations space, or what people, if you went to go hire a PR firm, what they do for you kind of is outdated today in a way, given what kind of other tools, marketing tools that there are out there, but it's not if you integrate that with the other marketing tools, namely PPC, that's available out there to you, to make the PPC a whole lot better. And of course, if you're doing the public relations now, to make that a whole lot better or worth your time. So anyway, I'm going to explain how both of them kind of integrate to make each individual source or medium there work better for you, a lot better. And how to promote your accolades that you ultimately, as we all know with PR, you're kind of just trying to generate accolades for your business, artificially to create organic accolades, or sometimes there's just straight up paid promotions, of course, but how to use those to get double-digit increases in your conversion rates on your PPC campaign is what I'm talking about there specifically. So how do you take a PPC campaign, in other words, and to be able to take a conversion rate that you're getting now on the traffic of 2% and make it 2.5%, all the way upwards of 3%, something like that. Sometimes you could go a little bit more than that, of course, 2 to 3.5% to 4%. Everything depends on is how you implement this strategy here and what kind of press you're also and accolades that you're actually working with here, which I'll explain here in a moment, to be able to raise your conversion rate from a 2 to a 3 or 2 to a 4 for yourself. And then you could take this as far as you want, but my job here is just to give you the general starting ideas of how this works and how I've done it for some of my own clients, and then you can decide what works for yourself. You never have to go just with what I say here. So anyway, as usual on my videos, I have a short list of things that I want to cover to explain how this technique works, but also usually the first thing I talk about in my videos is give a little bit of a background. That background is about what public relations techniques are popular or effective. Sorry, this should be why. I apologize. Why public relations techniques are popular or effective. Why aren't public relations techniques as popular or effective as they once were? So essentially, as I was kind of touching on at the very start of this video, public relations isn't quite as good because everybody will admit, I've heard even like Gary Vee say it. If you get a feature in Vogue magazine in 1999, that was like huge. That would be enough to be able to maybe take your whole entire business to the next kind of level or stage just from that because of the time it was. Now today, same thing happens to you. You might get a little bit of traffic, but basically nothing. So, of course, that's why the real print channels out there are hurting and have to consolidate to just stay alive. And if you ask me, a lot of those print channels, they're being subsidized because what would the world be without print? In other words, they don't make money anymore. Because I don't know anybody personally out of all of our clients that actually pays for magazine ads. Now, it did work, but it just slowly got less and less and less as less people actually read it. And then there's online versions of magazines, and that's taken, they should just pick one or the other. But anyway, getting past all that, it's not useful. Of course, if you get online features, it's more useful than offline. So that's its own thing that public relations can do for you. But then again, it's not what people think it is. If you get a mention on Forbes, in other words, now that's like kind of the best as you can get, if you will, there. Still, that's not going to really do that much for you. If you get lots of features, let's say you got 10 or 20 in the top, 100 online publications like that, like Jezebel and some of these other, purely online publications. That's going to boost your SEO. That's going to get you some direct traffic from the links immediately. However, the cost that's going to cost you, it's a negative ROI, which is the whole relevant point to all of this. How much does it cost versus what it puts out? So yeah, you can get some traffic and some sales that way, definitely. But the cost the PR firm wants to charge you for that isn't really usually worth it. Of course, if you have a spectacular product, it's new technology, that will go a lot further, and then maybe in some instances it will. But if you don't have something totally groundbreaking, I'm not convinced there is positive ROI there anymore, and why PR firms don't really hear about them as much. And apologize to any PR firms out there. You can prove me wrong if you want in the comment section. But essentially, that said, the PR could be productive if you used what they did for you in a more productive way, and not just the traditional way that they're telling you the value is. Specifically, getting the feature in Forbes.com, and then that's it. You use the feature on Forbes.com and you capitalize on that feature as much as you possibly can. And that means, of course, which is a side to this video, you put it in your email newsletter. You mention it in your sales conversations that you give to your salespeople, and they bring it up in communications, and their direct emails that they send to their prospects, as people have turned into a lead already. If you have generate leads. But then going one step further, you're putting it in all your paid communication, meaning paid ads, PPC ads, as well for your audience, so that as many people as possible will see that. And a lot of people, it doesn't really sink in when they got this stuff. Why, okay, I got this free press, but why would I pay to promote the free press? Well, that's everything. As I'm actually going to show you here in a moment, that in itself is so powerful. If you're not doing it, you should immediately start considering about using it now in your paid advertising because of how powerful it is. So anyway, moving on my list here, where public relations should evolve to is targeted PR campaign / ad strategies, which I was just touching on there in a moment. Now, so basically you take whatever they said about you in the media, and it may be something quote, or it could be the whole article, and you're going to use that and you're going to slip it into your communications with the public through your Google Ads account, through your Facebook Ads account, wherever you're running paid advertising online. And of course, you could do the same thing in any other paid channel like direct mail or whatever. But of course, if you still had a magazine ad, you'd put it there. Same concepts apply. But since I'm a PPC guy, I'm just going to talk about PPC here on today's video, where you're going to put it in there. And you're going to capitalize on it again, like I said, as much as you can. And for what type of company you have, different ways will be, it'll be differently approached. But I'm going to go through the top ways that normally work, and then you can see how this applies to your business. So the very first thing on my list is to mention, it's in your search ads. So this is something definitely a lot of people don't think about, whereas I could tell you firsthand, given I've set up thousands of campaigns now individually on Google in my lifetime, that seeing with and without probably a dozen plus times now, having a voted number one or was featured number one or ranked number one in your search ad versus just saying, matchmaking services, click here, versus voted number one matchmaking service in the country, for somebody, of course, that's not trying to deal local and does want and in that particular situation, it's even more important because that person wants to find the best person if they're not going locally. But even if they weren't, and let's say it was a engineering service that makes plastic parts and does the design and engineering and production, with that, just saying that you're the number one voted, which ad are you going to click on? And as we know, and if you don't know yet, with PPC search ads, everything comes down to the click-through rate on your ad. For the most part, of course, you still have to, and the landing page and how well that serves the user's needs and how many people stay on the page versus go back to Google. But half of it's just the click, how often someone clicks on that ad. And if there's 4 ads there on Google and there's one that says voted #1 best in the country, which one are you going to click on? Of course, not everybody's going to see that. That's not the case. But you having that on there, you're going to be able to double usually the click-through rate on that ad. That doubling of the click-through rate on the ad might, close to, this is realistic, so or half of the original cost per click that you have. So there, right there, you can upwards of, double the ROI of your search ads that they're going to get for you themselves, just with that one little activity right there. So again, you would need to, it wouldn't be something that press says about you, but you could transform that in a way. I put here normally 25 to 50% ROI. That could be all the way closer to 100% ROI difference based upon the fact that you're going to get a lesser cost per click, and the fact that now that that person knows you're the best in the country, well, now they're not going to go back to Google as much once they get to your page. Same exact page, they're now going to convert better to a lead or to a sale than they were, because that's definitely, I know that happens from just looking at the numbers as well. But once we switch over to something like that, so you also have that effect going for you. And so ultimately, if you don't have it even, this is something you should be seeking to get, because this is what gives you your edge. And as I've said many times on these videos, Google actually charges what they think the market will bear. And so if you're able to have a hack that gets you, a little bit more from the clicks at the rates that they've set for the market, that they know pretty much the market can pay with, and not charge anymore, otherwise people start dropping out, well, then you just got your in to make the ads work. And it could just be that one thing, since it's so powerful. So anyway, that's the first way that you would use PR, if you will, in your PPC campaigns to make it actually worth your time. The next thing is in your remarketing ads. So if you're not aware what remarketing is, it's retargeting. It's where, of course, when somebody goes to your site, you can have ads show up for that person after they leave, specifically for that person or people like them that have been to the site. So going one step further, you take whatever you said in the search ads, in which through the search ads you can test it, voted #1 versus rated #1, whichever gets the higher click-through rate. Now you know what to put in your remarketing ads. And so you put that into the ad saying voted #1, and then if they didn't see it the first time, or even if they did see it, you're really just pounding it into their brain that if you are still considering more than one brand, remember, we're voted #1. And you're going to get higher close rates on your leads that way. You're going to get a higher comeback rate to your site for people who weren't quite ready or wasn't sure or was in the information stages, that when they do come back, they come to you doing that. So that's something you always want to do. You want to do always remarketing anyway, but if you have that, you always want to put that in at least one of your ads. You can do other things with your remarketing, which I mentioned on my other videos about remarketing. You should always have 4, 5, 6 other just ads in general, but one of which has to be your quote unquote what's said by you in the media. And then with that, by the way, you can put the little Forbes. I even do it for our own firm at Guarantee PPC, mention in Forbes, because you have it, why not use it? And it will measurably bump your numbers doing that. The other next thing is where your remarketing ads also point. So I just talked about remarketing here, so you're asking me why I'm mentioning remarketing here again. So one way to use it, what you have in the media, is on the ad itself, and you can just send people back to your homepage or your product page. You can go one step further, and that article that you got on Forbes.com, you could take that article and you could put it on your site, and then you could send people there. That's one way to do it. But what you really want to do, if you have that and it's still up and everything, and by the way, you always want to take a copy of an article like that if you're using it and put it on your site anyway, just in case Forbes eventually deletes that article so you don't lose your asset. But what you really want to do, if you can, is point towards the article itself. Now that sounds a little crazy. You're saying, why would I spend money to send traffic to Forbes? And can I even do that? Yes, you can do that. Sometimes, the saying, you should, it's better to do than to ask for permission first. So some people would want, that's a little too edgy. I've done this at least 10 times where I'd send, and I do it again to this day, send traffic to another site where there's a feature there and just let people go read the article. Once they read that article, they're going to be like, damn, this is company's legit and they're for real. I'm going to deal with them. So you can do that. And by the way, this is something that Gary Halbert has mentioned before, famous copywriter. What other people say about you is generally 4 times as effective than what you say about yourself. And that's why this whole thing and this whole strategy I'm giving you today is so important. But it goes, part of that 4X is getting the consumer to believe your statement. So anybody could say number 1 voted, and people know that. But when you can actually send them to the article, so if you say it in the ad and maybe they believed it, maybe they didn't, and they're kind of on the fence. But then later on they see a remarketing ad that says you got the feature and you send them directly to the article to read it, well, you just cleared up any doubt there. And the doubt will cut your conversion rates slightly to where you got them shored back up again if you do that. So I recommend, and so yes, you're paying to send traffic to someone else's site, but the traffic you get that comes back to your site is now going to convert like 5 times the rate it did before from a normal visitor. Because that person now knows pretty much without doubt, I'm going to buy from this company now. If they were sufficiently, of course your article is good enough, that has to happen, but it's definitely possible to do. And of course, like I mentioned, how good the feature is going to depend on whether or not you get another 10 to 100% increase in ROI from your overall PPC budget that you have that drives traffic into your site by having the remarketing ads going, mentioning it. But I want to say routinely for sure, just having the article there, you're going to get 10, 20, 30% increase in ROI, making sure everybody sees that you had the feature and it's there. And then if you send them directly to the article to read it, even though you're paying traffic to send it there, which actually works better than sending them to a copy of that article on your site or just sending them to your product page individually, you get closer to the 100% bump there. So you combine these two, you have your search ads updated, you get another 20, 50%, let's say, conservatively, and then you get another 10 to 100% ROI by using the remarketing strategy I gave you there. Then you're looking at what I was talking about in the start of the video where you're at 2% conversion rate overall, and now you got a closer to a 4% when you add in the remarketing traffic that when you put out there they read, and then coming back, and then when they come back, converting at a super high rate that nobody else really converts at that rate for your business. So anyway, that's kind of the strategy. Now there's some quick things I want you to know here. So the first thing is so these are the types of, this is what you want for the review, the PR, if you will. The first thing is, or the first type is independent nomination. So obviously if you can get it, like I said, 4 times as effective what somebody else says about you than what you can say about yourself. So if you can obviously stimulate through a PR firm, even if that PR firm is expensive, you could just ask them, what can you do? Can you actually get me a feature on Forbes? How likely is it? If you can actually get it, or you already have it, of course, that's the one you use. The one where they organically reviewed your company and put it in Forbes. Second best would be your, of course, incentivized/paid nomination, which would be a featured/sponsored article in magazine or similar publication. So this is a kind of a secret that I'm going to give you here. So basically, if a publication has, you could download the press kit is what it's called, and they show you all the advertising ways you can advertise through them on their site or through the publication. If they have sponsored articles there, normally that's for be able to take your article and publish it on their site and then marking it sponsored, which is pretty good. I've mentioned using that on other articles that I've written before. Definitely that's its own strategy, but what I'm mentioning or talking about here as tying it to actual PR, you should reach out to the salesperson there and mention you're willing to pay more money if somebody there would review your company. And the bigger the publication, the harder and longer the process that might take to negotiate. For a smaller publication, they'll for sure do it. And on a bigger publication, maybe they will do it. But a lot of times, there's a trade publication just for your industry. If you sell CNC machines, there's a CNC review site probably. You go to that review site that has articles there, and you ask them to do a publication, and they'll probably ding you pretty hard. It might actually be $5,000 to $10,000 for one really good article like that, but that article's worth its weight in gold. I mean, if you can get your conversion rates on traffic from 2 to 3%, right, and you're making $100,000 a month in sales, bring it up to $150,000 a month in sales by having that really, really good article you could point to and mention over and over again, it's nothing, literally nothing. So I recommend not settling for the sponsored post and just put it out there. And if they don't take it, go to somebody else that will. I would go with a bigger name first, like Forbes, than a niche publication where they said you were rated the first, because it seems to have a little bit more impact, but they're close anyway. And with that though, just overall, you have a lot of different options available to you. Just one won't do it, go to the next, go to the next. You'll find somebody eventually that will help you do it. And if you're stuck with, and if you think your niche, because I said every business is of course different, so I'm not trying to put you into a box here, but if getting that review from an actual trade publication in your space, because you're selling something super technical and has a small audience, well then maybe you'll just have to have the sponsored article, and that's the best you can do. But that's really, really not as good as getting them to review it. And what I would do, and as a side note, or a last thing to this, one thing that the PR companies do is they develop relationships with the writers at those sites. So if the site isn't just manned by one person and has one author, which is the owner, and it's that small, you can make a friendship with the author and then get them to do a interview you and do an article, or you can get that done. And it takes a little bit of finesse, if you will, to sell the author. But as they know in this world, well, the whole world's runs on kickbacks, favors, and bribes, if you will. I don't like to use the word bribe, but the fact that you scratch your back, I'll scratch mine. Of course, one of the things you can give to that author is inside access to anything that comes up in the future. So if they have a question about XYZ thing that comes out in the future, you will give them all the free information they need as long as they help you out with this article. So keep it above board, but that's the reality of the PR world. Is kind of a dirty world, if you will. If you wonder how some people get some things, that's kind of how it is. The last thing here is create your own article. So if you can't get, for whatever reason, done what you want to get done, let's say you had to have it on a niche publication, and you can't get it. The last option available to you is to create your own niche publication. CNCmachinereview.com, and then have a single page that reviews your product for whatever category it leads in versus the other products, which yours is number one in this category. So you compare, of course, the one feature that you're best at compared to all the other machines, and then says this is rated number one, and then use that site, which you're going to create a custom domain for this, and a single page that reviews all these products. And this is one way to do it. Of course, you could do any number of other things there. You could have an article there that reviews it, that looks like it's an independent author of like some other, publication that wrote it, but really you had an internal person write the article. You're not trying to hide it. You're putting the name of who written it, but as they read it, they just think they don't care who wrote it, and then it reviews your individual product or service, and then has a link back to your site, and then you use that through all these techniques here. And then of course you're asking, Corey, how do I deal with the fact that I don't have a full website's worth of content? When they click on the homepage, this is just something I've seen other people do. Let's just put it that way. Under construction. So if they go anywhere else on that site other than that page you're taking them to, then they can't view it or whatever. So they'll forget all about it once they read it anyway. And my thing is, as long as you're not lying here and you're actually helping the user understand what they should be buying because it's superior to the other competition in that particular whatever you're explaining, I don't see the fault in that. Who says you can't put up your own review site? The other review companies are getting paid to get reviewed by all the other people. That's pretty much how the whole industry works, at least on a small level. And then, of course, the bigger sites out there, I talked about how some of that stuff goes now. And so anyway, create your own world here and explain how you're better. And then, maybe even add in testimonials from people that have said that the competition don't have as good of XYZ feature as you, and then testimonials from yours to actually add some weight and proof to it would be one way to go about that. And I actually have a video about a negative review PPC strategy that I just put out to have a little bit more information about that one in particular. But in the end, a $5,000 investment for 1 or 2 really good articles is, well, it's nothing in the grand scheme of things here. Of course, if you're really, really small, it might be a little hard to swallow, but if you're already doing $500,000 a year in sales, I can't imagine how this is not going to help you get an ROI, even including the cost to get the articles done within 3-4 months, something like that, something small, maybe 1 month. And sometimes it might take a $10,000 investment to get one extremely good feature that if every person who's seen it would just immediately say, it'd be blown away and say, oh, okay, I trust this company, it would be still worth it to you. I've seen that kind of thing happen, and the fact that if you can get a 10 out of 10 review and a 3 out of 10, but the 3 out of 10 is 3K, and this one, the best one's 10K, that's rated 10 out of 10, you want the 10 out of 10 one, just to give you a general idea about that. Get the best you can, do it right, use it everywhere you can in your PPC, through remarketing, through your search ads, as I mentioned, and as an added bonus, any sites that review your products or services in your space, if they run Google AdSense, so they have banner ads, in other words, on those sites, you can also have an ad that points people to the feature to encourage them to go read that feature, and it looks like a normal link to a news article, so they won't have the guard up, and it's another way you can make money from this. So anyway, there's just another way to do it as well. Hope you enjoyed this video. I have a lot of other videos on this channel just like this. I talk about various outside-the-box PPC strategies. You should check them out. Also, if you go to guaranteeppc.com/blog, I have step-by-step instruction on how to put together campaigns just like this. If you have any questions about this particular PPC strategy I mentioned here today, or about PR and how it integrates with PPC, leave a comment down below. I'd be glad to get back to you. I will get back to you on a comment or answer as to what your question is. And hope you enjoyed the video today, and hope you do definitely check this out as usual.